What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. Today we're going to be talking about my choices, my selections in terms or in regards to building a G1 Masterpiece Scaled collection. This is just my choices. We're going to set up some parameters for it. We're going to give some explanations for all of it. But first, we got to do some house cleaning. So, first on the agenda is the Masterpiece Wars of Springer, MMC versus Fans Toys. I want to say that I received numerous PMs, DMs, emails, comments, etc. saying that I should weight the scale, give gravity to the scale, make certain aspects of the grading criteria way heavier than others. But that's not how we've set this up. We've set this up for everything to be graded equally, so kind of as of right now, dim the rules. However, I do understand where you're coming from. But first, let me ask you this. Can you imagine the backlash if all of a sudden now I was like, you know what, I'm making this more important and we're going to give Fans Toys the win? Can you imagine? Just stop for a moment and think. The point of this, for me anyway, kind of became that the weight of the components of the scale needs to be added by you. So therefore you can go back to any of the Versus videos and you can add weight to any component of the grading criteria that means more to you. Obviously, as I said in the end of my video, I am more concerned with sculpt, build, materials, and paint than I am with engineering, accessories, alt modes, etc. So that's why I've already given it the weight. That's why I'm holding on to my Apache and not getting the MMC Springer. The weight of the grading criteria needs to be decided upon and judged accordingly due to your sensibilities. Dim the rules. I'm also sure I got a ton of feedback on this For Dummies elitist video that who knows, but I hope that you guys got where I was coming from. If I feel like I need to address something, we'll get to it next week. As for the Fans Toys video in regard to paint and metallic paint, there's a lot of comments regarding that. I think we're going to have to do a sit down Saturday on paint at some point here soon, but not today and maybe not next week. Today what we're going to be talking about is building a masterpiece collection based on the mythology, based on the lore of what we commonly call G1. A lot of times I base these sit down Saturdays on topics that tend to flood my inbox. So if I get people asking a similar question along the lines over and over and over again, it's like, well, I'll just go ahead and make a video about this so when I get the next question, I can just send the link. I've done this many times and it's cut all that way down. The Dinobot sit down Saturday I did, the Minosaur sit down Saturday I did, it's become a thing. So one of the questions I often receive is, what piece of X character should I get to represent that character on my shelf? I think sometimes what they want me to do is choose for them, but it's not really fair because we might grade that scale differently. But what I can do is have a video giving my thoughts on kind of the current selections on the market regarding the cartoon characters from G1. Today we're going to be doing season 1 and 2. If you guys want to see a video on 3 and 4, let me know. We'll do 3 and 4. I imagine that you will, but I could be wrong. Before we go into this, we have to understand a few baseline criteria elements. This is my subjective opinion on the choices. This is what I chose or what I think about the current choices if I feel like there is a competition. Sometimes I don't, and if I don't, I won't mention them. If something is out and I don't feel like it's going to compete with something that's not out, I'm not going to mention it, and I'm just going to say go with the something that's not out. It's based on my preferences. It's based on my sensibilities. So if you don't align with my sensibilities, go back, watch the reviews of said characters that you're interested in. If you're like, nope, I totally disagree with all of this, then this video holds no weight for you. This is kind of if you've watched the reviews on the characters, you want to see what I think in regard to your personal choice, or my personal choice rather, then you can use this as sort of a guideline or template to make that decision. Some characters I don't think there is a viable option for at the moment, and I think you should just hold off. My criteria is based purely on display, sculpt, paint, and build. That's what matters to me. Tune accuracy matters, but not in the sense of line for line, only in the sense of spirit. Sometimes in this bit that we're getting ready to go into, I will make some distinguishments amongst options in regard to that, but generally, this is how I feel. So this is season 1 and 2, Masterpiece, Scaled, Transformer, Choices, or Pick List from yours truly. Let's begin.
So we're going to kind of alternate Decepticons and Autobots as we move through the seasons. And we'll go ahead and start with Optimus Prime. He is arguably the most important character to the franchise. So I have gone with the Magic Square. However, I think the transform element is just as good. And I think that the Takara is probably going to be the best option. It is 3 times the price at minimum. And that's just a matter of whether or not it's worth it to you. And that's entirely up to you. It will more than likely be the best choice. However, it is not what I have gone with, and I think all 3 options are good. For Jazz, in my opinion, the major options come down to Make Toys versus Toy World. And that has more to do with whether or not you want something a little bit more tune accurate or a little bit more of the toy blend. Toy blend, go with Toy World. Tune accurate, go with Make Toys. Cliff Jumper, Toro is my answer. I'm aware of the competitors. Toro is my answer. For Prow, Ironhide, Ratchet, Sideswipe, Blue Streak, and Wheeljack, I recommend Takara Tomy. I think those are the best representations of those characters. In regard to whether you go with plus versions or regular versions, it's purely a matter of aesthetics. The only plus version I went with was Red Alert. The rest, I'm more than happy with the original releases. However, there are a few more that deserve a bit more scrutiny. Bumblebee, for instance. I had the Takara Tomy original. I think there's merit to the new one that's coming. I also think there's some serious things to pick apart with the new one coming. And I've never messed with the Toy World version. However, I'd be willing to take a look at it at this point in the game. Hound, I think either the Takara Tomy or the Fans Toys is going to be good enough. Sunstreaker, I think the Bad Cube one is not as good as the Takara one. However, I do think it will hold up on a shelf. I feel the same about their Red Alert and Sideswipe. However, I have to also say that they're more tune accurate, so I can understand how you would prefer those over the Takara. Trailbreaker, as of right now, my suggestion is Bad Cube. I think they have the best Trailbreaker on the market. However, I'd still like to see the Fans Toys one come to light. Huffer, my recommendation is the Bad Cube version 2. Gears and Brawn, currently I both recommend the Bad Cube. However, the Fans Toys Brawn will probably take that slot. Windcharger, I recommend the X-Transbots. And Skyfire, I recommend the Fans Toys. For Mirage, I recommend MMC, Ocular Max, Sphinx, strongly. As for the Dinobots, it gets a little trickier. I think the Gigapower set will be fine and look great if you're into that size and aesthetic. If you're going the Fans Toys route, I think the best option is all Fans Toys if you intend on doing robot mode, and I would recommend using the Cesium over the Scoria. If you're going dinosaur mode, I think you can get away with either the Cesium or the Scoria, and I think you can get away with the Takara over the Grinder. And I would kind of let the price point be your guide there. As for the Decepticons, let's go ahead and start with Megatron. And I got news for you. The Takara Tomy, the X-Transbots, the Make Toys, and the DX9 are all good options, and in my opinion, none are perfect. I think if you're okay with the aesthetic, you'll be satisfied with any of them. For Soundwave, I recommend the Takara Tomy Masterpiece, and I prefer that over the Hasbro. And the same goes for Buzzsaw, Laserbeak, and Ratbat in regard to the tapes. For Ravage, Rumble, and Frenzy, I recommend the MMC Ocular Max Remix line. I recommend the Make Toys Seekers and the Fans Toys Insecticons. For Shockwave, you'll be happy with the Fans Toys or the Takara Tomy as long as you're happy with the aesthetics of your choice. However, I ultimately went with the Fans Toys. And the same goes for Reflector in regard to the Fans Toys or KFC, but once again, I went with the Fans Toys. And for the Constructicons, I recommend Toy World for a combined mode. I do not currently have a recommendation for robot mode. For Season 2, when it comes to Grapple, Inferno, Red Alert, Smokescreen, and unfortunately Trax, I recommend the Takara Tomy. For Blaster, I recommend the KFC. However, I would imagine a Takara Tomy one is coming. I'm hoping that the MMC Ocular Max Remix line will address the Autobot tapes, but for right now, the only 2 I can even remotely recommend would be the Rewind and Eject by KFC. For Omega Supreme, I think you'll be happy with the Fans Toys or the DX9 depending upon which aesthetic you prefer. For Power Glide, I recommend the DX9. For Cosmos, Skids, and Hoist, I recommend the X-Transbots. For Sea Spray, if you're going for a more tune-accurate display, I recommend waiting out for the X-Transbots. However, the Fans Toys one is built well but it is a much further departure from the Toon model. For Perceptor, Beachcomber, and Warpath, I recommend Fans Toys. For the aerial bots, I can already recommend the Zeta for combined mode, and aesthetically, I can recommend the Fans Toys for robot mode. I'm not sure how the combiner is going to hold up yet, so I can't recommend it. And unfortunately, we're still in need of a Steeljaw, Ramhorn, and Defensor that really work. As for the Decepticons, Astrotrain, the only one I can recommend right now is the DX9. However, I'm hoping that the Fans Toys one does come to fruition, in which case that would definitely be my recommendation as long as it's built to the standard that we kind of expect. For Blitzwing, if you're going for the cartoon accurate, unfortunately, the only thing I can recommend is the KFC. But once again, I am hoping that Fans Toys one will come to light. However, with each passing day, it seems more and more likely that it will not. So if you end up getting the Dicka from KFC, just, I don't know, glue the legs and knees together so it'll stand for you. For the Coneheads, if Make Toys ends up producing them, that will probably be the best way to go. For the Stunticons, my personal recommendation for the combined mode is either Fans Toys or DX9. I can't say for sure because neither one of them have done it. And my personal recommendation for robot mode is Fans Toys or X-Transbots, depending upon how you can understand, deal with, and accept the scale. For the Combaticons combined, my recommendation is Zeta. For robot mode, I can recommend the Brawl and Swindle from Unique Toys. And I'm gonna look at the upcoming MMC Vortex. If it's good enough, I'll get the blast off, but I'm not quite sure how that scale is gonna work out either. Maybe more on that another day.
That's where I'm at. Now, a couple things we do need to go over. Just because I didn't mention something doesn't mean I don't think it's not good. I'll give you a case in point real quick. Make Toys Gundog. Great figure, it's not in the conversation for me. Make Toys Reflector. Great figure, it's not in the conversation for me. This is my choice. This is how I see it. Another thing that we need to talk about real quick before we get out of here, and that is price. Some people will hit me up and be like, I'm thinking about going with this instead of this because this is more expensive and that's more, and I get it. I understand. My general opinion regarding that you can use as a baseline for every other discussion is you know in your heart what you want. If you are sacrificing that to get something that you can afford at this moment, you're never going to be as happy as you would saving up for what you really want. Once you get that piece, it will be rewarding, it will be gratifying, it will be what you really want, it will be what will make you happy. Some of these pieces have come out 3, 4, 5 years ago. You're gonna have to pay a late tax on some of them, Mac. That's how it works. Does it suck? Of course. Will it suck after you go through the pain of actually getting it? No. It'll feel great when you sit back and look that you've acquired what you've wanted. Anyway, I hope this video is of service. I hope it helps. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.